Hello again. So today I decided to make a video about the purpose of organized stalking and microwave torture. Okay, let's start with what is organized stalking, or as some refer to it as gang stalking. Organized stalking is a systemic form of control which seeks to destroy every aspect of a targeted individual's life. Once a target is flagged, a notification is sent out to the stalkers at large, and the victim is followed 24/7. They use gaslighting to control the information the target is fed in order to control the target's mindset using intimidation or bullying. Does that explain enough for you? So, it's a form of control basically. Why are some tortured differently to others? Well, targeting has several levels, and you could be put in a program different to others. No program is identical. Some may have similarities, but they're not identical. It depends on the level of threat you pose to the powers that be, and the powers that be I've explained in my previous videos are secret services or many other agencies that are employed by the government. As I have explained before, in the US it's also privately done. So there are some private companies who have deployed this method of control. Why this is not non-consensual human experimentation? Well, the purpose of this is to control you, and we know what control is about. To control everything you think about, to control everything you do, to control everything that comes to you. They control your mail, they control your phone calls, they control your text messages, your emails. They break into your house, they spike your food, they spike your drink. Eventually, if you continue to pose a threat, you are put into mind control program. And how do they do that? I've explained that they install microchips in you through the nasal cavity by an injection. Okay, I'll name some victims of this torture who became patsies and went on to commit crimes. I'm not sure if you remember the Oklahoma bombing in 1994 or 1995. Tim McVeigh, the person who carried out the attack, was initially employed by the government. He was in the Navy, and according to him, what he said was that he was employed by secret services working for the Navy, and that he was given tasks to complete. But in the meantime, he also spoke that his mind was being controlled and that he had a microchip in him. It's not a coincidence. I have a microchip in me, and what he has spoken of I can identify with. So Tim McVeigh believed that he worked for the government, and he went on to carry out the Oklahoma bombing. I believe he believed that he was doing this as instructed by his superiors. So basically they put him in this mind control program and used him as a patsy. And the purpose is so big, it could be anything. They just wanted to cause terror by somebody that had the potential to carry it on. He believed he was working for the government. He categorically said that he was microchipped and his thoughts were being controlled. This is happening in 1995. Okay, that's Tim McVeigh, the Oklahoma bomber. The Boston bombers, the two brothers, the Tsarnaev brothers. Tamerlan Tsarnaev was sent he said to his family that he worked um, on some secret project and he was dispatched to Chechnya. You can't make these things up. So he believed he was working for the government on a secret project in Chechnya, giving them information, giving information to the US government, whatever agency, I don't know, maybe CIA, NSA, it could be any of those. So he believed he was working for the government. And he also categorically said that he was implanted with a microchip and his thoughts were being controlled. So that's two patsies for you. And whether he carried out the bombing of the Boston Marathon or not is subject for debate. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he was working for the government as he believed. I'll name some other patsies who went on and carried on attacks. Story of Aaron Alexis, the Navy yard shooter. He spoke of his thoughts being controlled, and he spoke of directed energy weapons being used against him. And he was also a contractor to the government, and he categorically spoke and tried to seek help, but nobody was offering him any help. The same situation that is happening to US diplomats, or happened to US diplomats in Cuba. He went on and carried out the Navy yard shooting, believing his colleagues were responsible for his torture. Consequently died as well, got shot and killed. Myron May. Myron May was a successful attorney. He was flagged, and he also spoke that his thoughts were being controlled, and directed energy weapons were being used against him, and he was being stalked and harassed. And eventually he also decided that his best way out would be to go on a shooting spree. This is not done in 1 day or 2 days or in 1 week or 1 month. This is done over a long period of time. They see targets who have the potential to go on and do something tragic, and they push the target every day, little bit by bit, until they get the target to commit a crime, and they use those crimes to gain the upper hand against the public. They pass on laws that benefit them, they get on more funding. So that's how patsies are used. What is the purpose of this torture? Well, the purpose of this torture is to get the subject to change their life's course. That's at the very beginning. And get them to not pose a threat. So that's the purpose of it. When victims don't understand the purpose, or they refuse to follow the protocol, they are gradually put in different varying levels of the program. Some could be just harassed by community stalkers. Some could be just used gaslighting on. Some of them could end up like myself, with a microchip in their brain and their thoughts being heard and controlled, and use directed energy weapons to lash out. Once you lash out, you commit a crime. What happens is the law is involved, and you get incarcerated and sent into prison. So this is not a non-consensual human experimentation. A subject of an experiment is not pushed to commit crimes. A subject of an experiment is not pushed for suicide. A subject of an experiment is not sleep deprived. A subject of experiment is not used for other motives. A, sub, a subject of an experiment is not used to cause organ damage or brain hemorrhage or heart failure, etc., etc. So this is not experimentation. If you are calling this an experiment, you're clearly misinformed, and those that are calling it an experiment are also misinformed, because this is not experimentation. You don't push a subject to their maximum level so they commit crimes. You don't do that. They know your minds, they know your thoughts. So why push you to commit crimes if this was an experiment? They would advise you against it. But what instead they do with voice to skull technology, voice to skull being the beaming you voices, is to push you to commit a crime, so you end up either dead or you end up in prison. Basically, if you die, you're eliminated, and if you go to prison, you're eliminated as well. This both serves their purpose. Why is the victim sleep deprived if this is non-consensual human experimentation? What is the purpose of depriving sleep? We know what lack of sleep causes. It causes rapid aging. It causes mental and psychological issues. Why is the victim being used directed energy weapons against? We know that directed energy weapons are microwave based, and we know what microwave weapons do to a target. It breaks once you're in this program and directed energy weapons are used against you. They beam those weapons on you to cause a variety of illnesses. When the microwave is being beamed at you, what happens on a cellular level is the microwaves damage the RNA and DNA, and basically causes this, the DNA to mutate. Once a DNA is mutated, the cell changes its form and becomes cancerous. So basically, it's proven and it's fact that directed energy weapons cause cancer. To some, it may cause over a long period of time. Some may be resistant to it more than others. Some may be less resistant and die quickly. Okay, to those who suffer from mind control, how can they gather evidence and maybe put a case together? If you suspect that you have a microchip implant, the chances are you most likely are implanted with a microchip, because otherwise they can't control your thoughts. They can't hear your thoughts with headphones or speakers, whatever, as I've explained in my previous videos. So chances are you're implanted with a microchip in your head, and they implant it through the nasal cavity with a syringe, this long, basically long syringe needle. And how can you detect that? Well, I will tell you my personal story. I went to my GP, general physician in the UK. She didn't know anything about this, so she left some notes on the system, basically coming to the conclusion that I had some mental issues, which consequently they used against me, by the way. So don't go to your personal doctor or the governmental doctor. It will cause you problems. If you suspect you have a microchip and you want to see it, go to a private doctor, ask them to give you an X-ray request form for your head X-ray, not CT scan, not MRI, because these chips evade the MRI and CT scan. They don't show on CT scan and MRI. They only show in head X-ray. So go to a private doctor and ask them for an X-ray request form. Ask for an X-ray request form, and once you've got the X-ray request form, go to a private facility and carry out the head X-ray. most likely you'll find a chip in your brain if you suspect that you've been implanted, and if your thoughts are being heard, most likely you will be implanted. So X-ray request form through a private doctor, not your normal governmental doctor. Okay, deaths of famous people by directed energy weapon. There's millions of people who would have died from directed energy weapon. Just because I am able to speak, don't assume that victims of mind control, other victims of mind control, have this kind of strength to speak about it. They make you submit to their will. They don't allow you to speak, because if you start to speak out, they cause you so much pain that you are forced to change your life's course by pain, by sleep deprivation, by organ failure, by brain damage, etc. They will make you change your life's course by force. It's not done in one day, it's not done in 2 days, it's done over a long period of time. They convince you that the course you're taking is not what they want you to take. You're basically a slave. They treat you like a slave. When my targeting began in 2012, but in 2013, they hacked my Facebook and put the word slave, just slave, on my Facebook page. I can show that if the need comes, when I need to present my case before a judge or something. Do you remember the Iraq War? Robin Cook, the former British foreign minister, opposed it. And a week after he opposed the Iraq War, he was in Scotland, high in the mountains, and he basically got killed. And they said he had a heart attack. They can give you a heart attack. I am 100% sure that Robin Cook was killed with directed energy weapons. There's no doubt, there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that he was killed with directed energy weapons. And then Dr. David Kelly, who also opposed the Iraq War because he was a biological warfare expert. He said that Saddam did not possess weapons of mass destruction, and all the allegations against him were lies. He was found in a field with a bit of blood, apparently in a suicide. 3-4 days ago, he said he opposed the Iraq War, and after 3-4 days, he ends up in a field with blood and dead, killing himself. That's not something normal. People don't do that. 3-4 days ago, he had a normal life, and then suddenly he decided to kill himself. It doesn't happen. They pushed him to do it, or they killed him, made it look like a suicide. Why won't the media report about this? Why won't the media cover this? Because the media are in on it. As simple as that. They're all in on it. It's not just one media. CNN, CNBC, CBS, Fox, BBC, Al Jazeera, they're all in on it. They won't report about this. They know this. And RT, Russia Today. Russia has its own mind control and organized stalking program. They are doing exactly what has been happening in the UK and in the US. So that's why Russia Today won't report it as well. Al Jazeera, CNN, they're all puppets for CIA. They get a lot of funding, not a lot of funding, they get a lot of bribes from CIA. All the famous journalists are on CIA payroll. And now this Russian meddling in the elections, the US Secret Service agencies, many of them, believe that Russia interfered in the US elections. But they don't say how they did it. They just say they hacked the elections. That's not how they really believe. They believe that it was done through electromagnetic waves. So imagine if you had access to cell towers which can broadcast frequencies matching your thoughts, your normal thoughts. So imagine if on the day of election, uh, words like "vote Trump" were broadcast over cell towers to the whole of the United States. Those who were already considering to vote Trump would have gone to vote Trump, and even some who didn't want to vote for Trump ended up voting for Trump. But they don't want to say that this is done through electromagnetic weapons. They just say, "Oh, Russia interfered in the elections by hacking the voter registration or whatever." That's a complete lie. That is how they really think, but they don't want to say it because they are using these weapons against their own citizens. So that's why nothing comes out of it. There are a lot of whistleblowers who are saying that this technology is available and being used against the public. The former FBI chief, Ted Gunderson, he said that weapons were being used, mind control technology was being used to control and push many shooters. Let me read the exact quote for you. Bear with me one moment, please. I'm just trying to bring up the exact quote. I want to use his words. I know what he said, but it's a quote, so I want to give you the exact quote. I can't seem to find it quickly enough. Oh, I found it. This is Ted Gunderson, the former FBI chief. Can't get better than that. He was the chief of FBI, and this is his words. We are talking about Nazi Germany. In 1933, you know, all these shootings around the country, the one in Arizona, I think West Virginia and Oregon that have taken place. In my opinion, I can't prove it. These are mind control victims, MK Ultra mind control victims. And the whole thing is designed to destroy the Second Amendment and take our guns away from us. I mentioned you Tim McVeigh. He believed his thoughts were being controlled. I mentioned you Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the Boston bomber, or alleged Boston bomber. His thoughts were being controlled. I mentioned you Myron May. His thoughts were being controlled. I mentioned you Aaron Alexis. His thoughts were being controlled. These are all alleged shooters that went on a shooting spree and killed people. And this is Ted Gunderson's words. We are talking about Nazi Germany in 1933. In my opinion, I can't prove it. These are mind-controlled victims, MK Ultra mind-controlled victims. What else do you want to know? This is chief of FBI. He knows what he's talking about. But he says he can't prove it. I can't prove it, but they're mind-controlled victims. So most shooters that you have by the way, not just these ones alone, there's many of them. These are some that I can think of. For example, James May, the Batman shooter, he was also under mind control program. So all these shooters are designed to cause massacres or killings in order to get tougher laws or more funding for the secret agencies that are seeking it. Okay. Some targeted individuals just can't get this idea that cell towers are being used to torture us. Your research maybe you haven't researched this good enough. They don't need drones. They don't need portable directed energy weapons. They don't need community members to get hold of classified weapons. All the torturing, all the V2K, all the directed energy weapon assaults, they're all done through cell towers. They don't need anything else because the world is covered with cell towers. So I've said this in my previous videos as well, and I'm saying this again. All your torture is done by cell towers. There is nothing else that is needed. Once you're put in this program, basically you can't escape, because there isn't city, town, village or country that doesn't have cell towers. And if they have 300,000 watt strong cell towers, which can turn you charcoal black if used at full strength in a second, why would they need portable directed energy weapons? Why would they need to give classified weapons to a community member? They don't need that. So it's not drones, it's not portable directed energy weapons, it's all done by cell towers. Please watch my other videos about directed energy weapons to get a better idea. Okay, so Faraday cage blocks these directed energy weapons. This is not just my opinion, this is a scientific fact. A Faraday cage blocks all electromagnetic frequencies from reaching it. So if your attacks are severe, if you're being tortured really badly, don't just sit there and wait for them to kill you. Build yourself a Faraday cage. There's lots of videos on YouTube. Put Faraday cage in YouTube search box and you'll see lots of videos and instructions how people have made them. Basically the material is very cheap. It's aluminium mesh or net, aluminium net and wooden frame, but it has to be a rectangle. So that's how it's done. And by the way, people say it's scalar waves or etc. Faraday cage blocks scalar waves too. It's also electromagnetic. Even if it was scalar waves, it's not. It's not scalar waves, it's microwaves emitted by cell towers. Even if it was scalar waves, you would still be able to block it with a Faraday cage. I hope this video was informative for you. I'm not the best today. They've kept me up for 2 nights. You can see the bags under my eyes. 2 nights I haven't slept. So I was not my normal self today. Lack of sleep. They've been sleep depriving me for many years. So I'm used to that. But it affects me in terms of my alertness, in terms of my concentration. I'm less friendly when I don't sleep. So I hope you allow me the benefit of the doubt and find this video useful. Hopefully you have taken some good advice from these videos and put it into practice into your life and end your torture. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day or evening. Bye-bye.